I love Student Transfer. It is probably my favorite visual novel, community, internet project, or whatever. I met a lot of people with interesting stories in the Discord, and if there is a niche internet community I once felt part of, is that one. I'm not part of it anymore because I explore a lot and I can be a bit of a handful at times, so yeah, but in any case, the amount of great stories in this visual novel, not just in the main game, but also in the fan scenarios people make, it's great. I made 3 scenarios myself too. I didn't finish 2 of them, and one of them was just a joke scenario I made in 2 weeks. But back then I had fun. I could start talking about the roots of the main game first, but I want to start with this scenario, called as Ice. Why? Because I recently read an essay by Lovecraft called Supernatural Horror in Literature, and it made me realize something. Transformation and metamorphosis can also be a great, endless source of horror, because just as there are endless sources for fear of the unknown, that fear becomes more gripping and terrifying when that unknown is you! Let's start. Just as with many scenarios, Cold as Ice routes vary in quality and consistency, therefore it's better to judge them one by one. Cold as Ice features 3 long routes that are linear for the most part, aside from the decision each one has to give you 2 different endings. The scenario introduces Irene. I like more saying Irene in Spanish. It sounds better. Irene, it's like, the fuck. I'm going to say Irene. I'm sorry. The scenario introduces Irene as the main character, while depicting her as a somewhat tough girl with anger issues, but with a big heart for her best friend Allison and the people who really know her. She ends up getting the spellbook, but since she isn't from the Blackwell family, the amount of spells she can do is limited, and it's also a lot more hurtful for her, taking her energy at times. The first route that was completed, and curiously the route most people play at first, is the route focused on Brad, the Brad route. There are certain parts of comedy, and the whole route has a taint of mystery that keeps you engaged. Around the end even gets to be a little thriller-esque. And even when the route is linear at that point, it's nice to see Irene getting more and more clues. Is the reveal good overall? Well, no, the truth is that the reveal is a bit random. It is revealed that it was someone who didn't take any participation in the story, or in any of the other routes for that matter. It's a person that you will never expect because they have no actual motivations related to the characters or what they do. It just doesn't make sense. As for the endings, you get an extremely bad ending and extremely good ending. The curious thing is that you end up preferring the bad ending by far, because it's a lot more interesting than the good ending. Back then, the writer had mentioned that they did the good ending out of obligation, and it shows. The good ending is insipid and cliched. The bad ending, on the other hand, might feel a bit too cruel for some, but it has a really great, beautiful feeling of weird literature, akin to what you can get in cosmic horror. That's why I like it. It also reminds me a bit of the ending of Being John Malkovich. Great movie as well. So at the end of the day, the route has good stuff in it, even if it was short on the end, but there is a bit of an atmosphere that I like. In any case, the material gets good from here. It gets better from here. Yeah. The story starts with Irene and Allison switching bodies out of curiosity, and after an incident with Sayaka, Cornelia ends up stealing the book, giving it to her, thinking that Irene and Allison were planning to prank her or something, because Cornelia is stupid. And then the worst case scenario happens. Sayaka gets magic powers. Don't worry, if you don't know student transfer lore, I can explain this to you in the most simple, straightforward manner. Sayaka is the worst person to ever exist, and I hate her. Here we get to know more of Irene's and Allison's background and their friendship overall, but we also get to see more development with Irene towards her classmate Cornelia, who now has been forgotten by Sayaka due to her new powers. While the route lacks the mystery of the first, it still keeps you engaged as you read how Irene and Cornelia try to turn things back to normal and take the book away from Sayaka before it's too late. What I don't like of this route is Sayaka, because Sayaka acts like a complete psychopath. psychopath. In the main game, Sayaka is a bit more grounded, but come on, we all know deep inside if Sayaka got powers, hell will break loose. Now, the funny thing is that since Sayaka is a psychopath, that allows Cornelia to grow as a person. I think the route is quite solid. Also, in contrast to the Brad route, it features a complete improvement in the concept for both endings. While in the first route we had an extremely bad ending with interesting concepts and an extremely good ending that turned out to be pretty insipid, this time we got two interesting, bittersweet endings in which the protagonist still loses and wins something in exchange. There is not really a correct ending or an ending where pain can be avoided. In both cases, something bad will happen. Irene will lose something, and in both cases, only some stuff can be solved. Some people will dislike having two bad endings, but there is a difference between them. Who will choose to save, Irene or her friends and other people? John and Andy's depiction in this scenario is a bit different, but in one of the endings I just saw them in a certain state that just left me speechless. The story made me feel so excited that I even jumped from my chair several times. How can I say without giving spoilers? Maybe something like ID, pseudo, self romance or something like that. Anyone ever decides to take and expand on that concept, it could make for the best romance story ever. There is so much pain and so much romance in a story like that, like holy fucking wow. For the very last route, we have Yui. After Irene uses a spell that she can reverse due to her lack of abilities, she and Yui get stuck in each other's bodies. Their only hope? Find a Blackwell that can actually use the damn book in school. This route also features some ideas I like the fact that Yui and Irene are slowly getting their identity erased and slowly getting to believe they are each other even when they have completely swapped bodies. In here it will imply that their own brains are the ones that contain their sense of self, and that swapping souls only allows them to take their previous memories temporarily. Do you know what that is? Do you know what that is? Identity death. Yes, the most polarizing genre of transformation, but probably the one with the most potential ever. I feel that someone will write an identity death story so gripping and so transformative that it will become a pop culture icon in the next century or so. I could make more nitpicks about the story, but that moron of Lovecraft say that a story should be judged more by the atmosphere at its least banal point, and I'm going to try that because I think I can see what he means. This route also features two bittersweet endings where there is not a solution for everybody. Will you sacrifice Irene or will you sacrifice someone else? Who is going to lose their sense of self? Now let's talk about identity death, or ID for short. What is identity death? Basically, it is the term used for a character forgets about themselves and who they really are, and they start to believe they're someone else and become another person because of this. In other words, it's the death of an ego. For a lot of people, this concept is bad. The point people usually give is that it's usually just a flow tool to give urgency to the story and maybe change a perspective around the end, which many people fail to write in the first place. If a character forgets everything about themselves and what we went through with them before, doesn't that make the story pointless? For some people, it's murder, and it's not that different from normal death a lot of the times. What is the point of writing stories when we will just end with a different character at the end, right? Well, my friends, I used to believe this too, all of it, yeah, but Cold as Ice has shown me the potential of the concept. The point of identity death is not how the affected people deal with their death of their own ego, since they're basically dying. The point of identity death is to see how the people related to them deal with the death of the person they knew. It makes for a good source of drama, terror, and an interesting option to show how some people grasp the concept of identity. The big issue with this route is that it's not completely animated. After a bit, the path just ends in a placeholder. The whole route is there, but you have actually to open the RPI file and read the script from there. There are no animations, so it's a bit of a chore to read, but perfectly fine if you want to finish the story. I will say let's hope that one day the writer will come back or someone will finish it, but I don't know. People rather make their own thing, right? And the writer, I feel that just as I feel cringe reading my own scenarios from a few years back, the writer might feel the same with this, and they they might not want to touch it ever again. We are changing. We're basically different people from a few years back. Identity death exists on reality through the process of aging. Overall, it has a lot of flaws and issues, but I consider this scenario called as ice a fantastic scenario. People who are looking for wholesomeness or maybe for some hoarding stuff might need to look somewhere else, but this is great. If you think identity death is a terrible idea, I will say that Cold as Ice is the scenario for you to try, so you can get an idea about what the whole appeal, the whole potential of this TF subgenre is. I'm feeling an 8 out of 10. I want to raise your ego one day. I don't know how or why, but I think I'm growing up into the concept of identity death. I'm thinking some identity death related compliments to give to a person. You know, like, meet me and let me raise your sense of self, or losing my sense of self to you will be the greatest honor, or the greatest thing to happen. Man, something is waking up in me. I don't know what it is. Anyway, goodbye.